All right, everybody, welcome to the Natural Podcast. I'm here again with Brianna, who it started with. Go ahead and say hi.
Hello.
We are going to be talking about meditation today and how it has benefited our lives and how it can benefit you. So first question up, how did you discover meditation?
Well, meditation was something that I began practicing in Kundalini yoga, actually. And a friend of mine, brought me to Kundalini yoga. It's a different yoga where you practice chanting meditation and breathing exercises, less of like the asanas and the poses, less physical, more about breathing and awareness. That's when I first got introduced to meditation, and I thought it was really nice. So
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to like expand and go further, and I tried my own home practice from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it was funny because my mom was actually getting into it, and this was a really long time ago. And she was trying to get me into it, and then I just remember I thought it was like the stupidest thing. And then she gave me these guided meditation CDs by Deepak Chopra. I don't know if you heard of
Oh, no way. Yeah.
Deepak Chopra, and then I think a
The
few.
OG.
No, it was really good, and like I
Yeah.
started doing it, and I remember in the beginning it was just like I was like, "What am I doing? This is so stupid. It's pointless." And then over time, like I finally reached a point where like I had that euphoric feeling, and I was able to listen to what he was saying and like take his techniques, and then like I started feeling that, and like those mantras and stuff like that. Even though I thought it was dumb, over time I was like realizing it was making a difference. And I remember there was like 21-day challenge. My mom's like, just do it the 21 days and see how you feel. And after the 21 days, I like started to like it, so I started incorporating it in my daily life and stuff like that. But
That's awesome.
funny that I say that's actually the next question. What made you keep it a part of your daily routine?
Well, I really enjoyed the way that I felt about it at Kundalini, and I just wanted to be a dedicated meditation practitioner. I guess I was just always very excited about the spiritual aspect of it at first. And
Mm-hmm.
then after I kind of grew into a more complex way of thinking about like how it affects your mind scientifically in your body and things like that, I went through a lot of different phases with my meditation practice. At first, I was doing a lot of visualization and like imagining things, and I wasn't focusing as much as I could have been. And I think that was it actually almost hurt me in a way because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't aware of my thoughts. I wasn't aware of myself. And I was almost practicing thinking in the beginning. And so when I went into my daily life, like I couldn't hear my thoughts, and there was just so much going on in my head. And it didn't actually help me at first because I was not practicing it in a way that benefited me. So it wasn't honestly until after my brain injury, when I sustained a TBI after a car accident, that my mind was just completely clear. And it was really just like an amazing experience at the same time from something that had happened that was bad. I finally got to realize what it's like for your mind to be calm. And of course, that was because of the injury. But after that, I used it to heal my symptoms, my headaches, and that was like crazy because you always hear about how meditation can help you, and then it actually helped me in that way, and it was so profound that I just continued with it to see if I can reach this state all the time, or sustain the state of a clear
Mm-hmm.
mind. And that is the journey, the evolution of my meditation practice. So it doesn't always come like as easy as you would expect it to. It's not very straightforward. There's definitely going to be a journey coming along with the practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny you say that because it's, when you think of meditation, you're trying to basically clear all thought. And I remember you saying like that vision just now, but I was kind of the same way. I remember I would try to like think of like clouds and being in the sky or like being in water and stuff like that. And that actually did make it a lot more difficult for me too. What like really helped me was just like focusing on that breathing, and then just every time a thought would come in, just, take it away. And it's funny because sometimes I would, like when I meditate, even still now, like something will come into my mind and it'll keep on repeating itself and repeating itself. And then I'm like, oh crap, like And then you start getting angry and you're like, well, crap, how come I can't get rid of this thought? And like now it's not as bad. Like now I'm just like, okay, whatever, it's there. I allow it to be there. And then you just, pretend it's going away and let's focus back on your breathing. So I think
Right.
that's one thing that, helps a lot when you're meditating and stuff like that. But it's crazy,
Absolutely.
like over time, I learned like the science and stuff like that and how it regenerates neurons in the body or something like that, and helps with serotonin levels in the brain and all that stuff. And it's funny because like I remember before I meditated, I had so much like stress and anxiety, and I was so worried about things. But it really taught me to like live in the now, and just not worry so much about everything in the future or thinking about the past all the time. So it's really, I'm not going to lie, it's probably one of the top 3 things that changed my life significantly over the past, I would say 5 years. I think it's about how long I've been meditating. How long have you been meditating for?
I've been meditating about 3 years now.
3 years? Okay.
Consistently, though, like a consistent practice. It is now day 98 of every single day since then. So from
Yeah.
the beginning of my meditation practice up until 98 days ago, I wasn't a consistent everyday practicer. So
Yeah.
I didn't feel the effects that it had on me now. Like the benefits
Mhm.
I'm experiencing didn't come to me until I was sitting every single day. And I didn't really think, I was like, oh, one day in between, it's fine. And it was, I still got benefits, but it is, I would have to say for me, it's been significantly different. The differences between practicing every day or every other day, every 2 days or something like that.
Yeah. I don't think I've actually gone that many days. I think the most I've done is 30.
Yeah. It's
But
taken me a long time to get here, but
yeah, because it's not
it's
that easy.
fun.
Sometimes, you get busy and then you don't find
Mhm.
time, and then, you're like, oh, whatever, I'll do it tomorrow. So
Right.
I know I've been doing it consistently for at least 3 years, like not going like a week without it. But, there is sometimes where I go a week without it or a few days without it. So I don't have that every day. But I do notice when I do do it every day, at least for like a week or 3 weeks or however long it lasts, there really is a change in the way I think because I have that practice of, not being in my head so much, which I have like a huge, I don't want to say I have a huge problem because then I
But
believe that, but like, I know me, I
it's
know.
most of us, yeah. It's such a large majority.
Hmm.
It's probably almost, I mean, I don't want to say everyone because you can't really prove that, through science. It's every single person, but
Hmm.
it definitely is very close to the way that we've just habitually just, it's the norm. How we think is overthinking.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because my friend and me were actually talking, and we're looking at his cat, and we're just like,
Cats are
you
so
look at a
fun.
cat, but think about a cat. He's like so aware of every moment. He is not really in his head. He's just aware of like everything going on, and like you look at that and you're like, most animals are like that, especially if you look at a cat.
Right.
And it really made me think like, wow, there really is a spiritual aspect to that when you think about cats. I'm obsessed with cats. I'm just going off about it, but it's just funny because like we were thinking about that and like I was just looking at it. And I never really thought about it till like I think it was like 2 days ago we were talking about it, but it's just really interesting, like how stuck in our head a lot of people are, and that's really what's causing a lot of like that depressive feeling and those feelings of like anger and all that stuff because people just aren't learning to like let go and just live on. They're so stuck at
Right.
what this person did to them or all these things that are coming up in the future and not just like really living in the now. And it's funny because like sometimes I think about it, I'm like, well, it's kind of like a lazy way of thinking, like, oh, I'm just going to live in the now all the time. And that's not really, what it's about. It's just about being able to clear the thought and not be so stuck in it and live in the moment and, not feel that anxiety of worrying or depression of the past and stuff like that.
Right. And it is a lot easier said than it is done. And it takes so much time and effort and energy to actually organize your psychic energy or psychic energy, meaning thought,
Hmm.
and to organize your consciousness. And there are different ways, what we experience mentally has a lot to do with what's going on biologically inside of us. And I think that's what many of us can overlook at times, because when we're feeling something, or if we react to something, we feel that we're very responsible for those feelings. And a lot of it goes down to even genetics, how the responses are in our brains have a lot to do with the biology, the chemistry also as well, that's happening inside of our bodies. So that's why it's also good, instead of to not only practice meditation, but be aware of what you're putting into your body. I realize that sugar is like a really, really big trigger for my anxiety, because it gives me that adrenaline rush that my body associates with being afraid. So if I have a lot of sugar, sometimes I can maintain it or realize it or catch myself. But if I don't understand, or I'm not being aware or mindful about what I'm putting in my body, this can catch up to me, this feeling, and all of a sudden I'm feeling anxious and I'm feeling scared and things like that. So putting good things into your body and taking care of your body and exercising regularly, these things I think really are collaboratively what help you really strengthen your meditation practice, and also understanding that it goes back as well to genetics and just the human condition itself, survival, things that we've practiced for thousands and thousands of years until we've gotten to this tiny little point in history where we are who we are now culturally and socially. So these survival instincts can really trick us into thinking that this is who we are. We're defined by this feeling. It's about what we learn when we're meditating is to accept the thoughts that we're having, and to let them come and go, and to realize that we have them, but not to, like you said, drown yourself in that feeling or hold yourself so responsible for that, and accept it. And over time, your practice will, there's so many cool things about science and the brain that we're learning, because brain is a very mysterious organ, and we're just learning so much more now about it. I just remember in elementary school, they said, oh, when you're 22, your brain doesn't grow anymore. You don't learn anything else. Your brain is just like, that's it.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was like, I don't believe that. There's no way. And now we're like finding that it's incredible, how we really can develop and learn anything we want until, eventually age may catch up with us. But that's mental exercise, and meditation protects, your brain from aging and things like that. So longevity also, so many great benefits in it.
No, it's funny you say that with the brain, because like to me, I think anything you can believe will happen for your brain. So if you believe, and it's kind of bad that they teach that to kids, like your brain stops learning at 22, or like there's also like, I don't know if you heard, like once you're 30, you're stuck in that habit, or you're stuck in whatever habits you have. Like, I don't think that's true. I think anything can make you change, like our brains are really powerful. Like all that science that we hear about, like, I don't know if you heard like sounds and how it comes into the body, and how like thoughts become things and stuff like that. I truly believe that everything around us is here because of how powerful our brains are, like we're not like regular animals that like, just kind of live and do life. Like we're beyond that, we think about things and then it happens. Like you look at an airplane, you think about, like, there's some people that thought about it and then they made it happen, So it's funny that you said that. I know it's kind of off topic, but
I mean, the brain has a lot to do with like meditation, and it
that's
is
true.
in depth, and it is our kind of like a blessing and a burden to both. Like it's a double-edged sword, the way that our minds work and how we are so much more conscious than than animals are, or self-aware. How much more self-aware we are than animals, it allows us to develop these amazing things, and at the same time, we can be so like self-aware that it develops into this like psychic entropy, or this psychic confusion and displacement feeling in the universe. And that's where we get a lot of the anxiousness and the depression, and we're seeing an overwhelming numbers of people experiencing these things, and stress and suicide. And a lot of that has to do with that psychic displacement of not feeling or having that kind of organization in ourselves, or the feeling in ourselves that we're safe. And for many different reasons, these things happen. But when we really get to practice meditation, it helps us organize that psychic entropy, the psychic confusion, and helps us really strengthen our minds And kind of, I mean, if you give self-awareness to a dog, a creature that is so present but not entirely as self-aware as we are, very intelligent though, if you give that to them, and I think of that, me in that sense all the time, because we are still animals, what would happen to them? They would there would be a lot of confusion and a lot of, just trying to find a purpose in the world. I don't know if you've ever seen Rick and Morty, but
Yeah.
that cartoon where Rick, the scientist, he has
Mhm.
the robot who serves butter, and he's like, "What is my purpose in life?" And Rick goes, "You serve butter." And he goes, just, and that's kind of what reflects on like humans trying to find this meaning in life. It can really bring us a lot of distress. So what meditation does is like helps us organize our consciousness and our psychic energy, and helps us really find purpose in ourselves, and allows us to be happier, live a higher quality of life.
Yeah, that's true. And also like, so because sometimes I'll meditate, but it's like a different type of meditation where I'll like visualize, me being where I want to be, like the next level of where I want to be. I don't know if you do that at all, but sometimes I'll, sit there and I'll meditate and I'll be like, all right, I'll envision like a lot of the things that I want, like my home or, you know, um, earning a certain amount of money. And I'd feel how that would feel and like, just like live in that moment in my head. And it makes me want that more, and then drives me for that. But there's also that negative effect that you can get where it's like, oh, okay, if I don't get that, I'm not getting to that, like you can get like depressive effects and stuff like that. But you also got to learn to be in the moment while working towards that slowly. There's like that mix of like everything put together.
Right. Just understanding that these things take time, and reaching
Yeah,
your goals takes time. But I think that visualization really helps
exactly.
motivate you.
Yeah, mixing the two, I think, is like the magic where you have the visions and stuff like that, but you're living in the now and working towards it while living in that present moment. Because you miss a lot of things. If you're always in your head, you
Right.
miss so much of what's going on around you. Like I know sometimes like when I get anxiety and stuff like that, there can be so many like great opportunities coming around me. But if I'm like living in that and I'm like so worried and focused on, oh my God, I got to work and I got to do this, you miss so much opportunity when you're stuck in that. And it also kind of goes back to like having an open mind. You look at someone who has anxiety and who's stuck in their head. If someone brings them an opportunity, they're going to be like, no. But if you have that open mindedness, because you're meditating and stuff like that, and you're being present in every moment, not just thinking, oh, this guy's trying to mess me up, because that's what people have done to me in the past. Just
Right.
being present and listening to the person, you might you know be able to bring in an opportunity that might be amazing.
Yeah. You never know. And
Hmm.
the more that you do meditate and build up that practice, you, I think, develop a lot of self-confidence. And that is something that I felt a lot when I'm anxious and panic attacks, the things that I used to
Hmm.
experience. Just being very afraid of bad things happening, and having a confidence that we can practice through meditating and through disciplining our minds um, really could help with that feeling of awareness and being open to accepting new opportunities, feeling like we can do these things. A lot of the time we hold ourselves back especially when we are not present, not really thinking that in the future that we can attain these things, when we're very worried about either, the past, which is where a lot of anxieties do come from too.
Yeah, exactly. Now when you meditate, like let's say you're going to go and meditate, I want you to kind of walk through how you do it, and then I'll kind of
Okay.
show how I do it as well.
Okay. So every single morning I wake up and I drink a lot of water, because I feel like that helps me feel more focused before I meditate.
Hmm.
And then I just sit up in my bed and I put on, I use Insight Timer, and that's an app that times how long that you're meditating for. Or you can listen to guided meditations. So I started off with guided, and then I started slowly wanting to go on to a silent practice. And so I sit in my bed and I put on the timer, and then I focus on my breathing. And I can do any different variation of breathing techniques, whether it's counting my in and out breath. I'll count in one, out two, in three, all the way up until 10. And then I go back to one. And that's where the challenge occurs, is going up to 10 and remembering to come back to 1. Today I was going to 12 and I was, thinking about certain things. Always coming back to 1 just really strengthens those neural pathways, those communicators. It helps you strengthen your focus, how much time you're able to focus on something, how long you can do so. And then reminding yourself to come back is also what helps you outside of meditation. So I'll do something like that. Is a practice that I go to very often. If just breathing in and out isn't giving me that kind of practice that benefits me, if I feel like I'm very distracted, I'll do the counting, or I'll just focus on my breath. And it really varies on the day. So I'll do that, and then that's pretty much it. I'll do that maybe once or twice a day, once in the morning and then once at night. And that is the way that I like to do it. But there's so many ways. So how do you practice your meditation?
For me, like, it's funny you said that it's different, because for me it's also different. But I like what you said about that method of counting, because sometimes I'll meditate and like I'll just have so much going on in my mind from that day, and like I feel like I didn't even get anything out of that meditation. But
exactly,
I remember in the past I would get pissed off and I would just stop meditating, and then like I'd be in an even worse state sometimes. I was a long time ago, but anyways, like now, like let's say I don't really meditate in the morning so much. I do more like visualization. Like I'm like, okay, like I feel grateful for everything I have, and then I just envision some things. Like I'll read my goals in the morning, stuff like that, and that's kind of like my meditation in the morning. I notice if I meditate in the morning, I just fall asleep. It doesn't matter if I'm sitting, whatever. I always fall asleep. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to meditate in the morning anymore. For me, I do it midday. I like to do it right after I come out of the gym. So I like feel alive. I feel good. I meditate. Basically, I'll sit down. I like to lay in my bed personally. I've like been able to learn how to not fall asleep, because sometimes, every once in a while, I will, depending on how tired I am and how long my day is. But I like to do it after I work out, because it prevents me from falling asleep. But I notice in a laying position, I meditate always the best, because I don't feel any stress in my body. I can relax everything. So what I'll do is I'll lay in my bed, and then I'll just like slowly focus on my breath in the beginning. I'll close my eyes slowly. I remember you talked about that. I'll close my eyes slowly, and I look directly, slightly upwards. I read in the book, it's good to do. You look slightly up, because it does something with like alpha waves in the brain. I put on some binaural beats, usually 432 hertz. That's what I'm into right now. So that's the binaural that I'll listen to, that type of hertz. And then I'll just like focus on my breath. And when I focus on my breath, I always think, when I'm breathing inward, I'll think, so. I'll say it in my head, so, and then outwards, and then calm. And then I just constantly say like, so, calm. And I just imagine myself, and it's kind of funny, I'm saying it right now, and I feel myself getting calmer. As I'm breathing in and out, that's what I'll say. And then right when I'm doing that, I have a good rhythm. Then I start slowly touching like every single muscle in my body, like my eyelids, everything, my mouth, everything in my cheekbones, everywhere. And then like I'll just feel all my muscles and just relax and take away any tension, from my chest, my core, my hips, everywhere. I'll literally think of every single part of my body, and then boom. And then usually right when I do that, I get this like wave of, this feeling of like chills, I guess you could say, that just like goes throughout my body. And then like in my mind, I'll just like envision, I'll just pretend like a light is coming at me, and it's almost like an orb coming in closer and closer like that. And like, as it happens, I just feel like a very euphoric feeling throughout my whole body. And then like over time, I'll just try to hold that. And I try to hold that as long as I can. I think the most I've ever been able to hold it is like 3 minutes, but I'll just try to hold that for as long as I can. And like, as soon as I hold that for 3 minutes, I'll sit there and I'll continue to do what I'm doing. And if I can bring it back, I bring it back. If not, I just kind of assess how I feel. And if I feel like I'm ready after that, I'll just stop. So it can last anywhere. For me, like I've been able to do it in 5 minutes. Some days it takes me 20 minutes,
Right.
So it always varies, but that's basically my favorite way to meditate,
That sounds really cool.
Mm-hmm. I know. I've actually never really explained that to somebody, I think, till now. So it's kind of never really thought about it. But I actually did write something for a few of my clients and stuff like that. And part of that program I was telling you, a little guide. I got to send it over to you so you can tell me what you think.
Okay.
It kind of says a little bit of that. And yeah, so that's that. So Yeah, I know we're also talking about yoga and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
maybe you can go over a little bit of that again and how it
Sure.
helped you and what your thoughts on that are.
Well, when I started yoga, it was about, let me see, it was about 4 or 5 years ago that I began just experimenting with yoga, going to classes at my college campus. Nothing too frequent though. And then over time, I really just became so fascinated by the practice. And I used to be a dancer, so it seemed that it was pretty similar. In gymnastics, there were always things that I was involved in. So yoga just seemed to be like a cool fit, and something that was more available and less expensive than gymnastics and dance. So, and it was fun. It was very different. So I tried at first just a regular vinyasa class, and that's just going through the asanas or poses.
Hmm.
And then I did hot yoga, and then also Kundalini yoga, like I explained before. And there are a lot of different variations of yoga as well, like therapeutic yoga for injuries, or Alcoholics Anonymous yoga, where, yoga really creates this really nice community for people. And so the yogas that I've experienced are very different, but at the same time, they all kind of produced this constant reconnection with my mind and body. And I think that's what was so important, is doing something that made me more aware of myself and of my body. And that's why there is such a um, love for this practice, because people feel really good when they're present and when they get to be active and bringing peace to your soul, I guess, if you want to say it that way, or your consciousness. You're balancing yourself in a physical and mental way. So I found it super helpful for me. And when I was reading, it's called a book called The Subtle Body. It's a history of yoga in America. And what they spoke about before is, when yoga was being introduced into the West, is that yoga was introduced as a preparation for absorption, it was called. And what that translates to now is that yoga was a preparation for meditation. So that is why they practice Shavasana at the end of regular, not regular, but Vinyasa asana practices. They do
Yeah.
Shavasana, where you lay down at the end, right? So, and that's probably why you feel so great after you exercise at the gym,
Hmm.
and you meditate, and you find that that works very well for you, because that practice in yoga, the physical exercise, was initially to bring your mind and your body together, prepare you for a more productive meditation practice. So I feel that they go hand in hand, and I also feel like together they produce very they probably produce really great benefits when they're combined together, because they
Hmm.
were, designed to work together as a team to produce the best benefits.
That's interesting. Maybe I'll make that part of my program, meditating
Yeah.
after after a workout.
Yeah, there you go.
That's interesting. That's good to know. I mean, for me, like when I do yoga, I think it's really interesting because, as you're doing it, you're kind of like suffering, in those like, I know for me, because I have a lot of tightness,
Right, yeah.
I
It's
won't
true.
brag, but like, I have like more muscle than a regular person. So like I have that tightness throughout my body. So when I'm like going into position, and I remember every time I go into a yoga class, like I always look at other people and I think about myself and I'm like, God, how do these people get into these positions? Like I am suffering so much in this one. And it's just so funny because like if I don't like really just try to focus on really trying to slowly bring it out and just like, oh my goodness, that pain, it doesn't really get better. So I have to like really be in that moment and feel that stretch and like kind of like live in that now and have that meditative state as
Right.
I'm doing it, and it's I guess that's what another thing that makes you feel so good. Also that release, of all the chemicals in the muscle and that
Hmm.
release of that tension while like being in that present moment all together. It's almost like a challenge for your brain. That's one thing I've always liked about yoga is like it was a challenge. Like for me, when I look at like working out and then yoga, I think yoga is way more difficult than actually doing a workout. I mean, I don't know how it is maybe like when because I never did it consistently enough to like get to that point where you see those people that are able to like be contortionists basically.
Yeah.
But like when I think about the two, I think yoga is so much more difficult because you have to hold these positions and like get into these things that just hurt so much. Like when I'm,
Right.
working out and like building that stress in the body, and maybe it's because I'm used to it. Who knows? Because you could probably ask maybe a person's really into yoga what they think about working out, and that could be hard for them.
Well, it's the total opposite for me, I think.
Oh, really? That's interesting. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's funny.
that's good because like that's what I think when I think about yoga. I'm like, gosh, I'm like suffering in this position.
I still do, there are times where it's like very tense. And I think that's
Yeah.
where you learn just like so much patience. You just have to have like all that patience for your body and for yourself.
Hmm.
And yeah, but yoga I definitely will go to anytime, unless you like it against asking me to like lift some weights or to like do this workout. I'd probably be like, oh no, I'm just gonna go practice yoga.
That's funny. That's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah. I mean, I stretch after every workout.
Right.
So I do like a bit of yoga, I guess you could say, but I don't.
Yoga's like that deep tissue massage
Yeah,
though,
exactly.
rather than, just that massage that deep like
Hmm.
release.
Yeah, exactly. What about those stretch zones? You ever go to those, or what do you think? What are your
Stretch
thoughts?
zones?
You ever heard of that, like a
Are
stretch
they
zone?
gyms just for stretching?
It's like a place where you go where someone forces you into position, so you don't have to do it yourself. It's someone. I actually have a friend, and he does massages. I'll probably do a podcast with him later. That's a good idea. I didn't think about that till now, but he would actually do that. He would put me into positions and stretch me after, like, giving me a massage, and like since he's able to do it with his body and apply
Oh,
pressure.
like Thai massage?
What is it called?
Thai massage?
No, but
Where
like
they
it's
put you
just
into
it's just like
yoga
a
poses
stretch.
after a massage? Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe there's a name for it. I don't know, but he would do that a lot, and I remember that would like feel really good
Yeah.
afterwards.
I think it's definitely good for someone who is trained at doing it and like smart about it, practiced in it. They don't really advise that if you're a yoga instructor at first to do adjustments on other people. So you do need a lot of practice in order to get to that level where you can adjust people for them. But if you are like really well knowledgeable in that, you definitely can help to open people up to a different way or better way to do a pose or stretch. I know that some yoga teachers have helped me when I, think I'm doing it okay, but I'm struggling, and I'm tense, they adjust you just a little bit and
Hmm.
help you get deeper into it. And you're like, oh, wow, like that's how it's supposed to
Yeah,
feel. So definitely is beneficial if the person is knowledgeable and trained in doing it.
yeah. I like that you said that because you actually remind me. Because like sometimes you go to a yoga teacher and like I don't really like them, but like sometimes you go to one and they'll be able to fix you or tell you what you're doing wrong, like you said, and like makes a world of a difference.
Right.
Like I can literally go back and remember the yoga teachers I liked because they would come up and like fix my positioning. Because sometimes you're like stuck in one, and you feel like almost like an idiot. You're like, "Am I doing this right?" And then
Yeah.
they fix it. Oh, okay, that's what I was doing wrong.
Right. And you never know, right, how
Mhm.
much that you can attain, like what your potential is. Sometimes we do need that help.
Mhm.
It's not always bad to have someone else helping you.
Yeah, I remember this one guy. He started leaning on me, and I was just like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll just be there for that."
That's
It
so
worked.
funny.
It was just really funny. He's like while he's talking, like really meditative, and I'm like, okay, that works.
That's great.
I know it's a funny story, but yeah, I feel like we got over a lot of good stuff there. Trying to
You
think of
did.
anything else.
I actually do have, I refreshed myself on some science of meditation if anyone is interested about like the actual scientific explanation for why it does, benefit people with things like anxiety, depression, Alzheimer's, chronic pain,
Hmm.
cancer, even. Um, so it is, let's see, the neural passageways, in our brains, how neurons fire off and they send communication to different neurons, things like
Hmm.
that. When we practice meditation, it is a practice. So we're learning something new. And those neurons are taking that focus, like I spoke about earlier, coming back and focusing to one when you're counting your breath or coming back to your breath, reminding yourself to be present and to focus on what's happening in that moment. The neurons get stronger because the fat around the tissue, the fatty tissue around the neurons just the connectors strengthens and it builds up and it protects actually that information that's traveling to the next neuron.
Mm.
So as we keep thinking about that same thing over and over again, the fatty tissue builds up and it protects that information. So it's easier accessible the next time that we need to go back and find it. So in that sense, we can learn really basically anything. And that's what they're learning about our brains, why it's so malleable and so flexible. We can really have so much more potential than we've been giving ourselves in the past. And why meditation works for us so well is being able to take that practice and outside now in the real world, or, you know, in your busy world, when something happens to you, now instead of that anxious neuron firing off or that stress or that anger firing off, your brain now has another set of tools. It has, you know, like another weapon that's becoming stronger because you're training it more. And it can use that focus muscle now, you know, that you've strengthened that muscle. You gave your mind a workout. So you can use that in everyday life. And it's not like you have to try so much. So at first you will, but then it'll start coming on automatically. And that is as well why we see that when we are anxious, it just, something can trigger it and it just goes in a cycle and it goes in a wheel, or sadness or anger, anything like that. Is because those tissues are so strong now.
That's interesting, yeah.
But the cool thing about it is that once we stop using those, you know, neurons, stop using that information as much, they weaken and that fatty tissue starves and it depletes. So you're kind of shutting down those pathways and opening up new ones that are more beneficial to you. And I thought that that is just so revolutionary for us to know now and have access to that information, because we have so much more potential than we give ourselves. And so if you ultimately get to choose, it's not easy to think that. I used to get angry when people, you choose, like, you know, how happy you are and you get to choose how you feel. And I'm like, man, like, I just feel the worst. And I don't honestly want to feel this way. Like, I swear.
Yeah.
But so it's that just consistent practice that really gives your body that muscle. You know, it's just like any kind of body workout, any kind of physical workout. It is that mental exercise that helps you, you know, build those skills. And over time, it will be challenging. You know, I've had to stop during my meditation practices because I was just feeling so overwhelmed by the feelings that, you know, I felt it wasn't really productive for me. So I left, but I always had to come back. And every time I came back, you know, I was more ready to practice it. And then I would see what I practiced, you know, show up outside and in life when I was facing adversity and things like that is a lot easier to face than it had been before. So that is just a little cool tip of science, you know?
That's good. I mean, I definitely, it's funny you said that, because now I'm thinking I definitely recommend the 2 books, you know, if anybody's trying to get into meditation. Also, you can look at you got your podcast on YouTube that people can look at as well,
right?
Channel or whatever. But 2 books I really recommend. I don't know if you've read them. There's The Relaxation Response and then The Power of Now. 2 really powerful books right there that really, the relaxation response goes into like why it works and the science and how it, you know, reduces hypertension, there's anxiety, depression, and all these different stuff. And it goes into the studies that they did of how it helps with that. And then The Power of Now is more like techniques and like teaching you how to be more aware in the moment. So those are 2 books I like super highly recommend for anybody. Also, yeah, check out your channel, because like you put a lot of good information on there. Like I want to try
Thank you.
What are those beads called? The
Mala beads.
I want to try that out, because I have a friend and he showed that to me too, and then you told me about it, and I'm like, okay, maybe I should try that, because I think that would help like for that time where I can't get into that state because I'm really stuck in my head or something like that. Maybe that could be a way to like help me out.
Right. That's actually the technique that I went to when I was in the hospital healing from the traumatic brain injury. I had the mala beads, and I just, you know, I felt that it helped me so much with focus, and it just took my mind away from the pain that I was experiencing and the headaches. And I don't know how it happened, you know, like I have no idea, but that the headaches would be gone after using that technique. So I really do think that it has a lot of power in bringing your mind and your body together, really strengthening your focus. You get very absorbed in what you're doing, and it's very good practice. I also have 2 books that were really good for helping me understand the mind and meditation. The book Flow is an incredible book written by a psychologist, and it really describes how to get into this this meditative state and how to sustain it for a higher quality of life, but not exactly through meditation. He describes people who do things in their lives that create this flow experience.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of like the power of now.
yeah, and it's a really great book. And then also Get Some Headspace by Andy.
I heard
He's
about
a
that
Mountain
one.
Monk, and his podcast, or not podcast, his audiobook is the way that I listened to it. And it was very insightful and helped me feel like I'm not the only one who feels these things or who thinks these things. And it is actually very possible for you to change those habits in your brain. So those are two good books as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. One more thing before we end this. There is one thing that I have been doing recently with my meditation, and I know my back is kind of messed up, and I've been trying to like progress on a chiropractor because it's expensive and stuff like that. So I've actually been like meditating, and I had some knee pain a while ago. So when I meditate, I'll focus on those areas, and every time I breathe in, I'll imagine like good energy going towards those like parts of my body, like the knee, and then also my spine, and like healing it. And like I'll get those waves again, like I was talking about, that like make me feel good. And I'm not gonna lie, I've been doing it consistently for like 2 weeks now, and like my knee pain is gone. It got like significantly better after I started doing that. Which like the ice, I was icing it every day and everything, and I was like, it wasn't really working. But once I started doing that meditation and like focusing on those areas, and I guess feeling in those areas too, because I know with chiropractic, I mean, I remember I was talking to my friend, I did a podcast. I don't know if you saw that one, but you have nerves that go through your spine. I think that's another way to be able to like feel them, is also through meditation, feel, those different parts of your body. Cause like when you have like a subluxation is what it's called, you lose feeling in certain parts. And I think it's also possible through meditation. I don't know. It's just my belief. I don't know if it's true, but I think it's also possible through meditation and feeling those areas to access that and make it get better through that. So I've been doing that, and that has been working really well for me. I don't know. I think you kind of said you do that too.
There's a lot of accounts of that happening
Yeah.
in practiced monks who they, use this visualization to heal themselves. It's funny because when I was in North Carolina, I stumbled across a book signing, and it was with a lama, a high monk.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about his book, and I thought it was so cool that I just happened to like be there at the time that this was happening. And he spoke about, he came here to America and he had this illness and it was so bad. And he decided that, he went to the doctors, they couldn't help him. He decided to meditate, and he did it for hours and hours and hours a day. But over time, he ended up healing himself.
Mm-hmm.
I personally wouldn't recommend it to somebody who's very sick and trying to, heal themselves without any kind of physician helping them or guiding them. But the
Yeah.
power of meditation definitely does have a lot of accounts of healing the physical body. So it has a lot to do with that mind-body relationship is very important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know if you heard, I mean, I'm not religious at all, but Christian spiritual healing. I remember I was reading a book, and it was called The Genie Within. And this guy talked about how like they would do that. They would like kind of do like a meditation, or it was more of a prayer, and they would just like envision the body getting better. I remember this guy had cancer. They told him he was going to die, and he did that and he got better, so it's another form. And I'm not telling people to become a Christian spiritual healer, but that meditation that they did made them get better. So
Right.
that was really interesting.
Oh, that brings me to another book. It's called The Art of Healing Your Suffering. And it is by a Buddhist monk who I very sadly cannot pronounce his name. I'm afraid to butcher it, so I'm not going to say it right now, but it's
Yeah.
Thich Nhat Hanh, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But anyway, it's a very good book, and it also talks about, in the beginning, he says, if all of my friends who had cancer had meditated to heal themselves, they still would have died. They all meditated, his friends who had cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and they still did end up passing, unfortunately. So he said that the power of meditation is very great, and you can transform your suffering. You can heal yourself in certain ways, but sometimes life, just has its own
Of
way
course.
of going. And there isn't always that chance that you are going to heal yourself through
Yeah.
it. But it is definitely always absolutely worth trying. And because not only it has that potential of healing, but because just heightening that quality of life. You know, if you are terminally ill and you do practice this, it is for just having better quality of your moments throughout your day. Terminally ill or just ill or not at all, you know, just a normal, healthy person, you know, it definitely has its benefits on all spectrums, but it is no guarantee, you know, it's not an absolute cure for everything, but it has its benefits. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, I think we got everything. I feel like we got everything that we needed to get. So yeah. So I am happy about that.
I could talk about this forever, so it's
I know,
funny.
yeah, me
It's good
too.
that you stopped me because I'll just keep going.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so now if anybody, you know, like that's watching this or listening to this, you know, has any more questions, please reach out to me or Brianna. Maybe Brianna's probably going to be a little bit better than me, you know, because I don't know, I feel like she is, but maybe that's
Thank
thinking
you.
that. But anyways, you know, like reach out to either of us, you know, if you're interested in that. You know, I know I'm adding it on to that program I'm going to do. Hopefully going to have you working with me on that. So that's
Yeah, that would be great.
looking forward to that. But yeah, just
Absolutely.
if you want to go ahead and share where people can find you real quick.
Yes. So I have my YouTube channel. It is called Know Thyself Collective. And then I have currently my bracelets that I create for meditation and mindfulness purposes called Know Thyself Collection. So currently they are two things, and I'm working to combine them together, but that's where you can find me on social media, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as Know Thyself Collective, Know Thyself Collection.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, if you are, you know, those bracelets, I know for me, it helped me bring me into the present moment, because that's something I never did, is have something on me that I'm wearing. And then when I bought that bracelet from you, and like I remember you posted something like, use it for, you know, to like live in the now throughout the day or something like that. And I actually use that whenever I feel it like bumps on us. I'm like, okay, live in the now, live in the now. Kind of like,
That's amazing.
I know it really, really helped me like a lot. So if anybody's getting, you know, like wants to get more into meditation or just being more present every moment, I definitely highly recommend getting one of her bracelets and
Thank you.
wearing that throughout the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you guys want to look for me, if you're looking from Brianna's side, you can either find the Natural Podcast that's on SoundCloud. I'm looking to get it on iTunes soon. So yeah, the Natural Podcast, just how it's spelled. You can also find me on Facebook, Adrian Lammersdorf. I'm the only person with that name, so you're not going to find anybody with that name. Also, if you want to search my business page, you can look up Natural Fitness. That is the name of my business. If you're looking on Instagram, just look up natural_fitness and then _Adrian, and you'll find me there. So thanks again for watching, guys. Go ahead.
Thanks, guys.
Feel more than free to reach out to us, and hope you got a lot of value from this. Take care. Bye.
Bye.